This is the Troutbitten Podcast.
Troutbitten.
Troutbitten?
Troutbitten.
Troutbitten.
Troutbitten?
Yeah, Troutbitten.
Troutbitten.
It's about trout.
Wild trout. This is Troutbitten.
Hey, this is Troutbitten Live, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Dominic Swantowski. I'm the owner of Troutbitten and the author of Troutbitten.com. So here we are. Everybody's here. We have a lot of people here already. This is something we've been really excited about for a long time. Going to do our first live event. Going to talk about streamer presentations tonight. Something we call Deli's Super Pause. Got Austin and Bill, Deli, Trevor, and yeah, hey now. This is something we've been looking forward to for a long time. Been working toward this. Austin and I have been working on this software package and everything. Let me introduce these guys.
That's right.
There's Austin. Captain Austin Dando. What's up, bud?
Captain this week.
Captain.
That's a downgrade from presidential.
He already he's got a lower voice tonight.
It's all downhill from here. What's that?
It's a little lower. We're not sure why. We had him reboot. Let me hear you recite the alphabet, Austin.
I don't think
Forwards
he
or
knows
backwards? Ha!
Dr. Trevor Smith
Next.
is in the house. Dr. Wool, what's up, bud?
that. Howdy. How we all doing?
What do you have? Words of wisdom. Medical advice.
Words of wisdom. Medical advice. Move or die.
That's right.
Move or die.
Yeah, he's saying stay young. Stay young.
Stay young. Stay moving.
Right?
Doesn't get easier.
No. What do you tell me the number one thing that you see in clinic? Number one
Oh my
health
gosh.
problem.
Number one health problem. I mean,
It's all right. You can say it.
I think there's a lot of stress, a lot of impact of stress. There's
Yeah.
a lot of weight problems, a lot of inactivity.
Inactivity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's big.
Can you fix everybody's problems?
I sure will try. Die
All right,
trying.
here's Deli. Bill Dell. Got a couple nicknames. Oh, look, there's his cat.
Yeah, there's one of my cats.
We're letting everybody in on the secrets tonight. All right, so yeah, tonight's topic is around Deli's Super Pause. This is something we've been, the Troutbitten crew, a bunch of friends, and a bunch of you too, have been doing with the streamer for a long time. It's we're gonna get into it. We're gonna show you a little video that Deli and I filmed Monday. How many fish did you catch, Del?
I caught one fish.
There, I thought if you'd have said 10, I'd have backed you up on it.
No, I'll be honest.
So
I caught
honest.
one fish.
He's right. No, anyway, we have a video coming for you. It's the premiere. It's the premiere of the Deli Super Pause video. We're missing our buddies Josh Darling from Wilds Media tonight and Matt Grove. Matt is what? He's in a conference like in Utah or something? Outdoor conference.
Something like that.
So the idea here tonight is to walk through what we would usually do on a podcast. It should be pretty easy because we've done this, 104, 105 times, Austin?
Yeah.
A few,
Without
right?
really missing a week. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it should be fairly easy to just kind of fall in that rhythm. But the idea here, of course, with all of you out there in that chat is we want your input. We want your comments and questions, reactions, not just your questions, but comments. Tell us about stuff that you've done along these lines. We'll feature some chats. We got to get used to all this too to kind of create a new flow with this live format, and it's something we're looking forward to. But really, there's a bunch already here in all these comments. That's fantastic. Thanks to everybody out there for being here. Yeah. And again, we just want to involve the community. I told these guys, they know that my New Year's resolution for the Troutbitten business was to involve you. We guide, and we get to know people through of course, emails, but in the YouTube comments and Instagram. I've had so many good conversations with a bunch of you right here that are on this chat through Instagram. We've gotten to know so many of you. And I say like the Troutbitten community is well summed up in the phrase that's actually in the Squala ad that says serious anglers that don't take themselves too seriously. And we've talked about this quite a bit through the Troutbitten channels, that we care about the details, and we'll be accused of caring too much about the details. You're making it complicated. Well, it sometimes takes complicated things to catch trout. We like that. We love that, to be honest, because I say to be a lifetime angler, somebody who stays in it for a long time, it's not good enough to just, right? It's just nice being out there. That's not enough.
You want to be students of the game.
Right on. And so it is. It's both sides of being an angler. Yes, we love the details. And we're going to get into the details tonight on a streamer presentation that we call the Super Pause. That matters to us. And so we want to hear from you too. What have you done once we get this kicked off? What have you done that's a lot like the Super Pause? Or maybe you have your own name for something that's really similar. Anyway, it's those details that we love, but it's also the friendships here and outside of here. And I recognize half of your names right in there, and I call all of you friends. And this is the idea. We want to do what we usually do with a podcast. And now we got the video element. That's cool. But now we have the live element as well. Something to try to pull off. We're going to see if we can do it. That's you. It's the community. So, I don't know. Here we go. Let's talk about the Super Pause. Let me first acknowledge, though, that there's 219 people in the room already. Yeah. And we really appreciate these comments. Maybe we should feature a couple of them before we really get going.
I could sit here and just read these all night. You all are funny.
Yeah, I know.
It's entertaining.
There's a special few winners here.
Yeah.
That I. So yeah, just to read off a couple. We have a couple folks joking about the recent indicator versus indie debate.
Oh yeah.
Dom, you and I
Don't
were talking
call it
about
an
this
indie
on the recent skills series.
Right.
So how dare you call it an indicator? We've got that going on. We've got from Robley, is that 1X Bill who never falls?
That's Deli, yeah.
We got
That's right.
We got
1X
Anthony
So that
from
was
New Trail asking what I'm drinking tonight.
Yeah. What are you drinking tonight?
We're drinking Between the Pines, Anthony. We got Jackson
Can't beat the orange can.
calling
so that's where
out
I am.
Dr. Wool.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a cool one from Logan Stir. He says he's been there since the very beginning. Family and friends on the water. Cool impact right there, Logan.
When's the beginning?
Season
says
1,
season
episode
1.
1.
For, as
Well,
far as
okay.
podcast
All right.
goes.
If I'll ask him. I'll ask Logan. Do you mean the beginning of the podcast or the beginning of Troutbitten? Troutbitten's coming up on 10 years. Troutbitten started in 2014. And it's grown a bit. I mean, right? All these channels. This feels like this is a new extension. This is something that we've been working on it for a long time. A lot of behind the scenes stuff to kind of make this happen. Austin and I are traveling to Patagonia real soon. So if you have some advice on how to, never mind.
We have some last minute advice. We've got about a day.
That's right. Austin just realized he can't carry on his fly rods.
Well,
What do you have? What
You're
do you
not
have for
allowed to check
Austin?
fly rod. Well, you're not allowed to carry fly rods into Argentina.
Right.
You're allowed to carry them on through America TSA, but not through Argentina's. They call it PSA.
Interesting.
Anyhow, I got one more comment. I think this is great. This
Go
is
ahead.
from Rosendale.
Oh, he just
Dale is a
preempted.
cat guy. Unfollow.
There you go. Can I comment on that? Because the first time I ever realized that Della was a cat guy, I was like, that doesn't jive. Like I figured Deli would be a dog guy. Do you have a dog, Deli?
No,
Just a cat?
I have 2 cats. They
Two
they just show up.
cats.
I have 2
Two
cats.
cats.
Both of them just showed up and did not leave, and so I took pity on them, and so now they hang out in the
people
house,
say.
and their sheds become dubbing. That's what my secret flies are
really?
made out of.
Come on.
No.
So
I
we're going
did
to talk
save
about.
Dale is a huge cat guy.
Yeah, he is.
huge cat guy.
We're going to talk about Deli's Grinch tonight. We've mentioned that so many times on the podcast, and I've mentioned it in articles. And a lot of people have asked me. I'll give you a real quick preview here. Here, I'm going to add this. That's Deli's Grinch right there. That's my tie. And then here's a bunch of mess from Deli. A few different variations. Here's the thing about Bill. You
There's
can't
a couple cats.
Right, there's a good point. The thing about Bill is you can't ask him exactly how he ties something. He'll tell you, but then tomorrow it's going to change. And he's like, well, now I'm adding some bling to it. Oh, now I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And last, you started adding mallard flank to the Grinch, which would be that fourth one from the left.
Yeah, I mean, you guys keep fishing the same waters as I do, and so I need a variant to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, well, a variant. The one on the left is the Ric Flair variant. Austin, what did you dub that? What'd you call it?
The Ric Flairiant.
The Ric
Flair
is good.
That's a good one.
Woo!
It just makes sense.
Woo! Yeah. What did I had something highlighted here. Anyway, we should move into it. You guys want to show this video? Let's start with this video. Again, the super pause, this will kind of explain it. The super pause is best on the tight line, first of all. But it really should be performed on a tight line. Wrote an article on the Troutbitten website about, well, it's part of the streamer presentation series. And most of the presentations on there, if not all of the presentations before this one, I say, like, it doesn't matter that much what rig you use. Not all of them, but most of them. Because we think more about how the fly moves than what the rig is. And because you're moving the streamer, the fly, you're not trying to get a dead drift on a streamer very often. So because you're moving it, you can move it pretty efficiently with many, many different rigs. However, this one needs a tight line rig. And Deli mostly agrees with that. But it's his disposition to be a little bit disagreeable. Deli. That's fair.
That's right.
Anyway, the super pause is really kind of about not moving the fly too much. This is something we've talked about a fair amount on podcasts, in the streamer podcast, and I've written about it. Like, make it easy for the fish to eat. We'll get into more of that in a bit, but that's just real briefly what the super pause is all about. It is. You guys find it to be effective, right? Let me get out of this right
No
there.
doubt.
Right? Are we all kind of fishing that super pause a good bit lately?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's a good go-to.
I know Austin is, because he's asked me multiple times, does this fly look right? How much hair do you put on
And Bill
this?
tells
How do
me
you do
no,
this?
it's still wrong.
And I said, keep putting more fox. More fox.
Arctic
Most
fox.
recent one, I got a deli-proof fly. And,
Yeah, he did.
It doesn't come easy for you to say something looks good from my vice.
No, that's true. But I thought you were going to say it doesn't come easy for him to give you a fly. I would not have agreed with that, because Deli will give you.
He's generous with
No,
flies.
he's
Right,
generous.
he's very generous with
Yeah.
flies. If you guys ever watched the Fish and Film series, I guess it would be number 1, where there were, 5 of us fishing together? 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Deli opened up at the back of his truck, and it's like a fly shop in there. It really is.
Yeah.
So he's generous. He'll give you flies from his dubbed from his cat. Hey, let's move on. Let's do this. Here comes the video. Let me add this. Oh, I'm gonna back that up for you.
A little bit about.
Here we go. Deli and I fished on Monday, and kind of a rough cut here. Didn't have a whole bunch of. This is not from Wilds Media. Let me tell you that. Josh would have sweetened this up a bit, right? I don't want to attach Josh Darling to this. Anyway, I tried to do this myself. Here we go.
I caught up with Deli out here fishing streamers in the sun. See if we can show a little bit about the super pause. Hey, there he is.
Yeah, a little bit faster over there.
So talk it through. What are you trying to do with it?
Trying to get it close to that bank and kind of sit it there. So the river's pushing once it gets about 4 or 5 feet off the bank. So the closer I can keep it to the bank longer, the better chance I think I have of catching a fish. The main river's pushing hard. So if I want to fish the main river, I'd fish a heavier fly. The bank over there is maybe a little less than a walking pace. And so I'm switching flies because I want to leave it, I want it to pause. If I'm using that heavier fly and I pause it over there, it's going to sink to the bottom and probably have a better chance of hanging up. And so I've switched flies. I want to put it on the bank and leave it there.
Because the heavier it is, the more you got to move it.
Yeah, you're kind of compensating that you have to strip it, otherwise it's going to hang up. Where if it's less weight, you can put it in there and let it hang. The pause is basically the lack of stripping in this case. So I'm going to high stick it, hold it high, let the fly kind of just sit in that mid column, because we're probably fishing 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet of water. So the other way to kind of get a pause is to put slack in your system. So if I'm constantly tight, I'm gonna pull the fly.
Yeah.
So if you notice my sighter, it gets twitched, and then I'll let it sit kind of on the water. I give it slack and I let that fly kind of hover in that zone. That must be the hogfish marker there.
It's a good marker for you.
Yeah,
Big trout sits right under the bobber in the tree.
What's this?
that's what the kids tell me.
Oh, there's the marker.
Oh, there he was.
So when you first explained that super pause to me, I was thinking you weren't really moving it at all. But I could see there's tension on the fly, which kind of keeps it moving anyway.
Yeah, it's impossible to completely pause it
Yeah.
and suspend it, at least in the water we fish through. But there are situations where you have a back eddy, an up current, where you can stick it in there and
Yeah.
you can physically like pause it for as many seconds as you want,
Yeah.
because it's just the water type allows you to do that.
Because the streamer's light.
Yeah. So like if you threw a heavier streamer in there, it would sink. You could suspend it with your rod, because like if you had tension on it,
Yeah.
you could suspend it with your rod, but it's more work. And you can only do that at such a distance.
Yeah. So on the way up there, I was watching, and you're moving the rod to kind of change the tension angle in a way.
Yeah. If you think about a streamer, it's coming down to you.
Yeah.
I think I said earlier, it's like a bowling ball. Like if you let it gain speed down the hill, at the end of it's going to continually get faster.
Yeah.
And so you have to put speed bumps in that retrieve to slow it down.
Sweet.
And so sometimes it's switch the rod and twitch upriver, even though it's coming towards you. If you twitch the fly upriver, it put brakes on it, it shoots the fly upstream, and then you leave slack in that system, that fly will suspend, maybe it's 6-8 inches, it depends on your current speed, but it's putting kind of a pause in there because you've twitched it upstream. Missed him.
Do you feel the hits?
Not always.
Right.
And that's a problem. So like a lot of times, if I put it in a spot where I think there could be a fish and I'm pausing it there, I'll set out of it sometimes.
Yeah.
It just depends on, ideally, you can, if you're fishing to an area that has no glare and you can see, this morning it's all glare. We're fishing all black water.
Yeah.
And so it's a guessing game. Like the fish that I missed, if I would have saw him move to the fly, I might have been able to pause it or might have been able to manipulate it so he could have eaten it better.
Yeah, right on.
So here's a good spot where you can stick it on the bank and you can pause it as much as you want, right? So I'm still on the bank, I come off, I twitch, let it hang.
What about the rig, Deli?
So the rig's pretty simple. It's whatever mono section, butt section you want. For the most part, I've got 14-pound butt section into sighter section, tippet ring, and 1X tippet.
Yeah.
And so if you look, that's all I have for my tippet section.
Oh, that is short. You are not trying to get deep.
I'm not trying to get deep. And also, if you shorten all that stuff up, it creates a lot less play kind of in this area. And so it's stiffer, it turns over faster, and it also, I think it's more accurate. With maybe that turnover gives you more accuracy, but the more tippet that I put on here, the less accurate I become.
Gets floppy.
Gets floppy.
What's your favorite water type for this super pause?
Slow tail outs, that's kind of what we've been fishing. That or just structure. So I'm gonna try to tuck it on the bank and leave it there, basically. Bring it off, flip it, let it ride. Now it's too fast.
Deli, where's the fish? Hey.
They exist. Find a dumb one.
On the dumb one. On Santa Claus.
Oh, that's on the Santa Claus.
Yeah.
variation. That's funny. So there's the Grinch, there's the Ric Flairiant, and Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
There he is.
Pretty much what streamers are.
Christmas
They got
ornaments.
They got tinsel on them.
Yeah.
All right, there it is.
Some
Deli
good
said
questions coming in
all
here.
streamers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of good questions.
Yeah,
Deli said
lot of
all
good
streamers
questions.
are like Christmas ornaments. I thought that was good. It's so true, right? There are a lot of. You guys want to highlight any of these questions here? There are a ton.
Yeah, I
Thank
got
you so
one here
much,
from,
everybody. This is cool.
Yeah. Let me see. I saw.
So what do you mean by tuck it on
we
the
got
bank,
a good one from
Deli?
Shane Sessions, Bill. I think you'll like this one here. He asks, so is the fly drifting downstream during the pause, or are you doing it there so it suspends in one spot?
The goal is to kind of suspend it in one spot, but it's not always
Kinda.
possible. And I kind of touched on that in the video a little bit. If you have, let's say walking pace current speed, it's next to impossible to completely pause that. I guess the pause is the lack of stripping. And so if you're, you throw it on the bank, so if you think about it, if you land the fly, and when I say on the bank, I mean the marabou of the tail hits the gravel that's on the bank. And so that, because at that point there is no current or close to no current on the bank. And so the longer you can leave it on that bank, the better chance you have to catch a fish. Now, when you strip it off the bank, it's going to enter the current. And so then it will go downstream. And the more you strip it, the more momentum that fly is going to create in your cast or your retrieve.
Yeah.
And it looked like you were pretty intentional with where your head position was with the streamer too, Del. Does it matter to you where it's facing?
It depends. For the most part, when you tuck it, the head's going to be facing you. So when I say tuck it, maybe that's I think someone
Fly
mentioned
first entry,
that in
though.
the chat.
That's all you really
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
It's basically a tuck cast at a very long distance. Like if maybe it's 15 feet, maybe it's 20, sometimes it's 30 feet, and you're holding that rod. Like you noticed in the video, I held that rod high, and because there was a lot of current in that section of the river. And so by holding the rod tip high, I keep the line up off the water, and so it gives me more time to leave that fly on that
Fly
bank.
in without the influence of the current. Yeah.
Without the influence. I wrote an article about this week. I already said that, but I'm going to read this quote. Sums it up, right? Just so we can kind of get it general. Quite simply, the super pause is a lack of animation to the streamer for a long time. But that pause usually follows some kind of movement. Last fall on our podcast about streamers, Bill surprised all of us here and more, by saying he often didn't move the fly for 5 seconds. And we all went, 5 seconds? Seriously. Like that seemed like a long time to all of us. And I remember saying that I didn't know if I had that much patience with a streamer. And seriously. And until Bill and I fished a couple weeks ago, I would be like, I'm doing the super pause, but I didn't quite have a 5-second pause. Anyway, I told, this is part of the, I remember telling Bill that I didn't know if I had that much patience, and I didn't. But Bill told me the other day that getting big hits and bigger fish at the end of the line can make you pretty patient as an angler. And that's a good point. Like this is not a new, this is not uncommon, right? This is not we're not saying that the super pause is like, look at this amazing new tactic. This is not new.
No,
it's just
not.
right. It's just the idea that don't take it away from them. Let them eat it. Make it look available. Streamers as an easy meal. What else do you say, Bill? You got a couple good catchphrases for. You've been saying it for a long time, and
Yeah,
we've
I
all
would
been
say
talking about it.
let them eat it. Just like give them time. Like I guess the best way to explain it is you don't have to make 1,000 casts into a spot. If you make the first cast count, and let's say that cast is longer, so the retrieve is longer. So if you hit the bank, you leave it there for a few seconds. You pull it off. Maybe you twitch it once. You work that fly back to you, versus like I think for the longest time streamer fishing was all about throw it out and strip it in.
Sure.
And so
Or let it swing. Yeah.
yeah, and so all of that creates a shorter retrieve. So maybe that's a
Quicker.
8-second retrieve. versus if you can make that cast longer, you give the fish that are seeing that fly a longer time to come to it and eat. And it also it gives the fish that are coming to that fly, like let's say you pause it, like often I'll stop stripping and try to pause it as much as I can, kind of halfway in, because at that point, if those fish are coming, they're not going to see me yet. If you wait and you pause it when it comes closer to you, the fish are going to see you and potentially spook and not eat it as much.
Nice.
And so I don't know, kind of the thought behind it is, if you think, like I started fishing for some of the freshwater stuff, and so bass and muskie and some of those fish, a lot of them eat. Yes. Anyway. And so a lot of those fish eat more on the pause. You've got like the figure eight, like when you're closer to the boat. And so if you think about it, all that stuff is doing is just creating a bigger window for the fish to be able to eat your fly.
Bigger window.
So,
Del,
Bill, kinda
do you
going
get
off
most of your
those,
takes during the pause, or do you, like, I know when you begin to animate that fly after the pause and you flip the head? Because I feel like, I mean, in my fishing of the super pause, I feel like a good number of my hits come to the tail end of that super pause, or even when I flip the head right after.
Yep.
Yeah, it's dependent. Like some days, it's all kind of a cat and mouse game. Like you can do a head flip. You can try to pause it as long as you can. You can do it inverse. There's so many different tactics you can do with that.
So it's not a dead drift. I want to point that out. We're not talking about just throwing it in there and drifting it. Well, if there's any tension on any fly, it's not a dead drift, right? Dry fly with tension skates across the current, and nobody likes it. A nymph that has some cross lead, let's say that's not a dead drift either. When you go underneath, or I mean, when you go to a streamer underneath, the dead drift aspect, go ahead and dead drift your streamer. But I get bored trying to dead drift a streamer. Right? We dead drift stuff all the time, so I'm trying to move it. And this is not a dead drift. This isn't even what I just call throwing it in there and drifting it. This isn't just drifting it. It's a pause after some animation. And Bill, you said about getting it really close to the bank. It doesn't have to be the bank, but that's a great place for it because the water depth is right. We're going to get to all that kind of stuff too. But throw it on the bank, very close to the bank. And Bill always says, get that marabou, if you have a marabou tail, put that on the bank, and then the hook is just slightly off the. I mean, as close as you can get to the edge, right? Yeah. And so get it that close, and then why strip it? Why move it right off? If you think that the trout are, if you know that the trout are over there, like why move it off right away? Anyway, get it on the bank, very close to it, right away. Now that in itself, that landing, can be that is your first motion. So a lot of times, doing this myself, I enjoy landing that fly in that kind of water we're talking about. It's often thin and slow, and that's often where the big fish are, feeding on bait fish. I love putting it right there and then not moving it, like Bill's talking about in the video. Don't move it. Like, you're going to have some tension to it, so it's going to start to slide and move. You could even see a very brief shot of Deli's Grinch there under the water. It's moving a little bit. He wasn't stripping. He was just kind of, there's some tension to it. So it's going to move. And the fly itself has a ton of animation built in because of the marabou, because of the Arctic fox and the things on it. But don't move it a whole bunch. But anyway, so it's a pause, not a dead drift. It's a pause after some kind of animation. And then you can animate it again, like Del's talking about changing the head angle and stuff.
So the one thing I'll say is, like a dead drift is kind of like you're throwing it in the current and you're letting it drift back, where like the super pause, I think for the most part, it's most effective in the slowest water you can find on a river.
A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, especially right now in the winter.
Yeah. So I saw a couple, like, yes, I do think it's a little bit more effective in the winter because the fish are a little bit sluggish and they need a little bit more time.
Good
but
point.
It works all year long when they're on streamers. So as far as the weight of it goes, it depends on the amount of volume of water that's in a river. But for the most part, if I'm fishing a slower pool, like a tail out that's slow, if I'm trying to throw it on a log that's, has like a back eddy to it and it's tucked in and it's slow, I'm fishing probably a 3.5 millimeter tungsten bead with no lead wraps on 2 size 6 B10S hooks.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of small. Well, what's that end up to be? 2.5, 3 inches long? I mean?
Yeah, probably something. Yeah, probably.
Anyway, so all right, so we've addressed very much. I think all we've really talked about so far is the concept, like why we find that this works. I was going to say think this works. It does. Why does this work? What are we really trying to accomplish? And now, like I said, so many of the streamer presentations on the website and that we've talked about here before are really centered around, well, are not centered around the rig itself and the flies themselves. Because you can, we just lost Austin, but he'll be back. Captain Austin will be back. Anyway, you can move those flies in the way that we want to with a lot of different presentation styles with many different rigs. But with this rig, or with this style, with this super pause, you really do need a tight line. You think, you what, 95% agree with that, Bill?
Yeah, so I guess maybe I'll give you an origin story of where the super pause came from.
Cool.
And it actually came from bass fishing. The stinky bass.
Stinky bass. Yeah.
Stinky bass are usually in slower water. And so usually I was fishing, maybe 1.5 to 2.5 feet of water. And so a lot of that time I fished an intermediate line with a fly that had no weight on it at all. And so that slower, like I would say a crawling pace. And so like it would be same thing, throw it out, strip it in, and then it works. I honestly think it works better for bass than it does for trout. Okay. Is your same thing.
Smallmouth? You talking like smallmouth in rivers? Right on.
Yeah. So bass, I tend to throw it in, one big strip. Let's say a 3 or 4 foot movement of the fly with a strip, and then a very, very long pause. Same thing, 5 to 7 second pause. And so it works. The reason the intermediate line works better for bass is because in the rivers that I fish that have more bass in them have more really slow water that has, like I said, like an absolute crawling pace. Versus a lot of the rivers we fish for trout, if you were to put that intermediate line in any of that current that was between me and the bank in that video, that current would just pull that fly right off the bank. And so that's where, with the mono rig, you can tuck it, keep all that line off the water.
Right. That what we all call the tight line advantage is being able to keep everything up and off the water that you don't have to put on the water. And therefore, then you don't have to, you're not mending line on the water, and you don't have that influence. We do something we call a slow slide at night a lot, Trevor, right?
Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about how it's maybe similar but different?
Yeah, I mean, at nighttime we're using fly line, typically a pretty heavy fly line. But,
nice.
And so you got to work with that, and oftentimes there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment, either an upstream mend or something that you're going to use to just put some speed bumps in the pulling of that fly off the bank. Yeah. But yeah, there's a real trigger to trout's predatory instinct when they kind of, I think, catch sight of that fly moving off the bank in a kind of diagonal way. And if you can keep it on the bank, when the splat of that fly in the water really does seem to locate that prey item for the fish. Using their lateral lines, they feel that type of vibration, and they're going to locate it pretty easily. Certainly at nighttime, they depend a ton on that. But in the daytime too, we don't ignore that fact in the day. So when you put it on the bank and you tuck that, you get that fly entry first. That's a heavier item that's hitting the water. And so I think the trout take notice.
Nice.
They're observing it.
Yeah.
And what you're conveying to the trout in that super pause and in that slow slide even is vulnerability, right? You're not, this is not utilizing the trout's like instinctual, territorial, high testosterone instinct. This is much more
what
of
about the female trout, bud?
Yeah, high estrogen, sure. This is much more, hey, this is a dose of protein that you can tackle with a low risk proposition. And so I think it's such a valuable thing when you find fish that are in the mode of wanting to take something without a ton of energy expenditure. So nighttime, that's certainly the truth, because they just can't locate things quite as easily. But then obviously, fishing, I don't know, the slower water and some of the colder water, even we find, I think in the wintertime, this is super effective, giving them something that they feel like they can attack and eat without putting out a lot of energy expenditure at a time of year when honestly the pickings are a little bit lean.
For me, that slow slide is my number one night tactic. Article on Troutbitten about it.
Totally.
And I know you do it a lot. So does Josh. We're kind of night fishing buddies. Austin and Deli are mostly scared of the dark, especially Deli.
All the way. Yeah.
Don't take that away from me.
It's true.
I was on the skills series for night fishing this summer. You're going to tell me I'm afraid of the dark?
Austin wants to. I was just
Don't be
trying to
mean
take a
on
shot.
purpose.
Just trying to take a shot. Trying to keep it even.
This is live, all right? I'm not going to accept it as well.
That's true. And I don't have any editing power, right? I can't
That's
go
right.
back.
The truth will come out.
I can stand my ground.
Yeah.
You can suck it.
Okay. Anyway, so the slow slide for me is about laying the line on the water, but choosing that type of water, put it on the bank, and then choosing a piece of water that's not, well, with that line on the water, you're going to get some belly. You and I, Trevor, we know we're using that belly then to slide it off the bank slower. And Bill, when you first started talking about the super pause, I was like, well, I do this tight line dance thing with the flies, and I do this slow slide, and you're talking about moving. I'm like, I do a head flip, and all of those things combine together, yes, to kind of be part of this super pause. And I want to point this out. It's not like we're saying, if you go and look at the streamer presentation series on Troutbitten, there are about 20 to 30 articles, different presentations. None of them are like exclusive to themselves, I suppose, right? They all kind of blend together. Not all of them, but many of them blend together. And I will often I'll land it on the bank with this super pause concept in mind, and then I might, right after leaving it there for 4 or 5 seconds, then I will allow some belly to form. I'll lay some line in the water and allow some belly to form, and it's sliding out, so I'm doing a slow slide. And then you can see Deli do it in the video where he takes the rod tip, from here to over here, so that on a tight line, that changes the head position, and now the head's faced upstream. So we did a head flip, and then, I don't know, what do you want to pause it again? Great, for 3, 4, 5 seconds. And then you can do twitch. It's pause after an animation. That's all.
Yeah.
Some good questions
Bill,
here.
there was
How
a
about?
question on here.
Yeah, please, Austin.
Okay. Well, there's a question on here. I'm looking for the comment where you had talked about in the video about sometimes feeling the strike, sometimes not being late, setting into it when you're in the area you think you should be in.
Yeah.
How often would you say you're setting on something that you're feeling a take versus not, or how difficult maybe is it to stay in touch enough with that fly that when the fish does hit it, it can remove the slack, transfer the rod tip, so you can feel it and set the hook and get an on-time hook set and not miss fish, I guess.
It's tough because
Yeah.
so that bank, like if you hold tension on that fly, it's going to have a tendency to pull itself off the bank and pull into the current. And so if you create that slack in there, you give that fly a little bit of a buffer and a cushion to stay on the bank. But the cost of that is you lose strike detection. That morning we were fishing, it was into black water, and I had no visibility at the fly, and so that's like the worst possible thing. But in the same token, that morning I don't want to fish all the sunny water that's out, on the other side of the bank. And so I could see the fly on the other side of the bank, but to me, I had less confidence over there because it was in full sun versus if it's in that black water, maybe I'll miss a fish, but at least I had the opportunity to miss the fish.
I
Does
like
it?
that.
I mean, yeah, and I liked your comment on the video too about the type of water that you're able to look into versus just seeing that glare. Because for me, that plays a big difference in whether I'm going to use if I'm blind to a slow slide to that technique, I don't like it nearly as much as if I can see the water that I'm fishing into. So
we all love being able to see the streamer, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
everybody out there, nobody's going to say, I'd rather not see it. I don't think anybody
I'd
would
rather
say
not
that.
see it.
Oh, well, you're the
Fish with
FBI
my eyes
informant
closed.
voice. Did you see that? We don't even get into that.
What's that?
Somebody said your voice sounds like you're an FBI informant. It's like
That's a
it's
good-
like- it's
I
like
was
a,
hoping
a
when I
good
stopped
analogy.
out, it might be fixed.
I know it's a half.
Another guy said I
Austin's
was a
voice.
late night DJ.
Let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. We can all hear Austin, but his voice is like a half octave lower than normal.
Yeah.
We don't know why. Okay, sorry.
I tried to tell him it was okay so that he wouldn't feel,
Yeah, we're like it's all right.
Consci-
We can.
They were like, it's
There you-
okay. You'll be good.
Not breaking
And
up.
then, the Troutbitten fans did the right thing and told him about it.
It's normal. It's normal.
I told him that's right. It's fine. It's fine. I told him it was like a 13-year-old boy that's trying to. I'm trying to make my voice change because my friend's voice has changed. But he hasn't hit
Austin's hitting
puberty
That's
yet.
great.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Here's Trevor. Did I interrupt you?
yeah. No,
Yeah,
I don't
please.
think so.
Redirect.
I think it was- Redirect. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think I liked Bill's point about the type of water that he's going to fish it in and the ability to see and the impact that has on strike
Ah.
detection and even the
See
ability to anticipate the strike, right? Because, you can, and we've all had that situation where you head flip or you kind of, when
Yeah.
you do finally come out of the pause, there's a fish. But you also, I think we all acknowledge too, that you can miss a lot of fish during that pause.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know when that strike's coming. But it's still it's exciting.
Everybody loves being able to see their streamer. And this is a cool
Yeah.
tactic. As Bill was showing you, he only had 2 feet of tippet.
Yeah.
1x
Yeah.
tippet. You're allowed to fish it a little thinner if you want, by the
No.
way.
If you
No.
want to break a fish
Never mind.
off, you can fish
Never mind.
3x or
Never mind,
4x.
it's got to be 1x. We can talk
But
about rig here in
honestly-
a minute. Go ahead.
So, but I don't know, to talk to a little bit of seriousness about it, like that
No.
1x is going to sink less. And that's actually a good thing.
There you go.
You want it,
Right on.
You want a slower sink rate on that fly
Yeah.
in that slower water. If I was trying to fish faster water, I'd fish a heavier fly, and I'd still fish 1x. I'd just fish a heavier fly.
Yeah.
But you want to, it's almost like you want to create a rig that sinks the slowest you could possibly, almost the slowest. Like you want something that's going to basically create a little bit of neutral buoyancy.
So I highlighted this question here. Let's start to, highlight some of these, and maybe we can answer them fairly quickly. You guys want to tackle this one? Does the super pause relate to anything in nature? What do you think?
I mean, that's kind of what I was implying earlier in terms of
Yeah.
that vulnerability. I do think, I do think that live, healthy bait fish pause in the current, obviously, right? And sit there for a while, and then we'll twitch and kind of move out of that current stream. But I think that kind of sliding with the current, and I think it does matter a little bit. I mean, the super pause works whether it's sitting in one place or not, but in most of our situations where there's some current and that fly is drifting, and the fox fur really has quite a cool, and the marabou both, but they have a neat kind of movement to them. But the effect, I think, very much is something that is not, it's a bait fish or a crayfish that is wounded and that is sort of like allowing the current to overtake it for a second, and then it's fighting against it. And that head flip or whatever move you use to come out of that super pause is when you're kind of trying to reestablish yourself in the current, trying to say like, I'm okay. And then you lose strength and you go back to drift, And somebody asked too, like, what's the difference between this and the death drift? The death drift was
good
something
call.
you talked about.
Yeah.
That I think
Similar.
you used first. Yeah, right? And there is a lot
absolutely.
of similarity to it, right? Although a death drift, I think, is more of like the entire song, like continuing on through an entire like casting upstream, and you're going to do that thing through the whole drift rather than, I feel like the super pause, we're talking about a much more specific instance where you're casting to structure or casting to a bank, and it's like one move, or it's like one bar of music in a whole song, where the death drift is like the whole song.
There you go. That's nice. That's nice, Trevor. 3 of us are guitar players, and we're going to teach Deli to play guitar, and then we can all be musicians here.
I'm going to play the cowbell.
Yeah, okay.
Bang on the cowbell.
Always
And
use my
what
cowbell.
What Trevor's referring to is an article I published called "The Death Drift." It's part of the streamer presentation series, and I agree with everything you're saying there, Trevor. The death drift for me is I'm just trying to make it look like a real bait fish that is dying and is almost dead. I'm trying not to give it any movement except every so often just the slightest twitch, twitch, and then I want it to kind of continue in its own lane. It's like taking a dry fly idea. Oh, and it's only, the death drift for me is only 2 or 3, maybe 4 inches under the water. I use some night fishing streamers, Trevor, that just go like this. And if you put any tension on them, they stop falling. Anyway, I'm not trying to have hardly any animation except every so often just a little twitch. Just a little twitch. That's what I call death drift. I'll be honest, that death drift does not work nearly as often as the super pause. Not for me.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mm-hmm. What's this? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
And I guess we should put a disclaimer. It's not going to work every time. Like
no?
anyone.
I thought
anyone
that.
Yeah.
I thought it would work all the time.
Come on.
That's what I want. I want some.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on.
With anyone that's streamer fish
I want
more
easy
than
answers here.
4 hours,
Yeah.
knows that nothing works all the time. It's
No.
it's a strategy and hopefully a tactic you can put in your bag of tricks to catch a couple fish, maybe.
Right on. So we have a lot of questions here about the flies, which is absolutely something we should tackle. If we go back to here and get to Deli's mess there.
Hot mess.
Hot mess. Deli, will you walk us through? I don't know. You don't have to. Just talk about the flies. Let's talk about the things that make the flies unique. You can't just do this with like a jig streamer. Right. It's almost the opposite of a jig streamer design. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So I guess I carry, and I didn't do a good job of taking the right pictures here, but I carry, I guess, a couple different variations. And the color is basically, for me, it's more visual. So in different water types, in different like water clarities, or just being able to see the fly, like the Ric Flair one, the Flair variant on the left there,
the
that has
yellow
the
one.
the yellow head. I started fishing that one because early in the morning that green of the Grinch kind of blended in, and so I wanted something, a little bit brighter so that I could see it early in the morning.
Yeah.
But as far as like the design of them, for the most part, I fish a 3.5 millimeter bead, a 4 millimeter bead, and then I fish the fish skull helmet head, and I believe that's a medium. And so for the most part, that's just different distances. So with that, the headbanger will let me cast it a little bit further. So if I hit a patch that I can't wade far enough over, let's say I got to throw it 40 feet, that helmet head will allow me to throw it further. The 3.5 I'm fishing in the calmer water. That's the one I'm mostly doing the super pause with.
Sure.
The Fox material that's on it, I think, is important because it doesn't shed water. So if you build a deer hair streamer and you, in the middle of your back cast, if you take that back, it's going to shed the water, and then it's going to lose its weight.
That's important
to be able to cast it a longer distance.
Yeah.
The Fox will kind of absorb and hold water. And so if you're fishing a mono rig and you want to be able to throw it a longer distance, you can add water weight and not necessarily sink weight. So the bigger beads, you can throw them further, but they sink faster. So if you fish, if you add, that's why, last week I was yelling at Austin, like, no, more Fox. You need more Fox if you want to throw it further.
Yeah. Come on, Austin.
And yet
Come
in
on,
the
Ken.
water, when it's in the water, it plays a role in that, just sitting in the neutral buoyancy, which is cool.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's like
There's
weight to
material
the cast,
resistance.
and yet it resists the drop. Yeah, so it's a cool. We've used it at night a lot. For that
it
reason
is.
As well.
It's a cool design. You could see that Arctic fox. It looks a little weird, Deli, to be quite honest. It's a strange looking fly. He showed me that. I'm like, I'm interested because I don't have anything like that in my box.
Should I explain why I got the name the Grinch?
Yeah. It's
so
go ahead.
Because
Yeah.
it's green.
Yeah, it's green pretty much. So I had
Good story. All right. Next
Good
question.
story. Okay, yeah.
so
Okay.
And we move.
I was
And let's go.
I was fishing it, and my buddy Greg looked at it, and he was like, "What the hell is that thing?" And I was like, I'm like, I don't know. They keep eating it, and he goes like, "Well, if you keep catching fish on it, you should call it the Grinch because it looks like a Grinch because it, you know, it's got the red hat. Like if you probably picked up a picture of a Grinch and you looked at it from top to bottom, it's pretty close.
Pick them up
And
all
it-
the
and
time.
it's-
Yeah.
And it's and it's got that ugly green lime to it.
I
That's
got one right
different,
over
right?
here.
It does. Well, that deli. Seriously, that where is
deli
it
out
again?
here.
Oh boy, I did something wrong. There we go.
Uh-oh.
That's strange. That's a strange color, right? That's a different color. And Deli found these Arctic foxtails from a company that dyes them, and I was like, that's a bad dye job. I said, I bet you can't get that reproduced. And then Deli proceeded to order like 5 more of them, and he had them sent to
Yeah.
each one of us. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Well,
I have
Bill,
an absurd amount
didn't
in a
you say
box.
Green, Grinch, green, yeah.
the certain company you got it from, they would go through different lots, and you waited it out, right, until that whatever color you could refer to that as came around.
Yeah.
That wasn't available all the time to you, was it?
No, I had the wrong website. Like I'm bad with remembering where I get things, and so I
You're
ordered
an
it from a
IT
website.
guy.
Yeah, I know. Well, I thought I remembered their site.
So the fly matters.
Let it slide.
Weight is a big consideration, and then like Trevor was pointing out, it's how it drop. We don't want a fast drop rate. My gosh, we certainly don't want a fast drop rate. But you do, as Bill pointed out, you do need something that'll get you down, and that's why we need the tight line rig, some kind of mono rig. And we're not even going to be specific about that. Whatever mono rig you already use that. You'll be fine. Maybe shorten up the tippet, maybe even thicken up the tippet. Anyway, you can use whatever, and you can then keep that tension on the fly and keep it from dropping. That's a big deal. Not only does that keep that insight for us, but it keeps it available to the fish for longer with this super pause. I think Deli kind of covered a lot of that in that video. I should say, once again, thank you to everybody. This is fantastic. This exceeds hopes and expectations. This is a lot of fun. I'm thinking we're going to try to wrap up at an hour, but why don't we kind of do a rapid fire here in a moment? I will say, I haven't even looked at the YouTube side. We're using a back-end piece of software. The point is, it matters if you like it, and then if you subscribe to the channel, that matters a lot. That helps us out. That helps other people find this stream. I should also say that this is going to be available afterward, available in a replay. Call it a replay, right? You can watch this again. Maybe go watch the video that's embedded. Again, all of this will be part of the Troutbitten YouTube channel in the future. We appreciate the support. This is great. Have we covered then the concept? Yes, right? We've done that. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if it matters too much to start talking about the rig too much. Deli did a nice job in the video, right?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Right? Do you guys think that the mono rig or tight line rig or Euronymphing rig matters that much? Am I missing something?
No, I
the
think
only
the
thing that might
distance you're
think it
gonna.
matters.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, the distance you're gonna fish it does potentially matter. Just the stiffness of the tippet. And Bill talked about like its ability to turn over, and so getting that tuck to occur at a pretty good distance. I do think that's helpful, like the specifics that he was talking about. But he talked about it, so I think we've covered it.
Yeah, I mean, I have my preference. I like the
Yeah.
standard mono rig build because I like the way it feels when I cast and the things I can do with it. Deli, you got something?
Yeah, I tend to like, I don't know, 15 pounds and up. The video that we did, I just grabbed the rod out of the car, and I think it had like 10 pound, and it felt a little awkward to throw it that far, and it's hard. That thinner tippet or that thinner butt section, I think, is a little bit harder to manage with your hands, and so
That's fair.
I think with streamer fishing, line management is everything,
That's a great point.
and so
Yeah.
do
Bill,
it
you
with
made a good
whatever you're
point.
comfortable with.
A couple, maybe last month or so, you and I fished, and I was fishing maybe 8 or 10 pound leader, and you actually recommended shortening up my tippet section for that purpose because it wasn't turning over nearly as well, and I had to fish a little bit closer than I would have if I was fishing a 15 or 20 pound butt, and thicker tippet, I could be able to lengthen that tippet section a little bit more, have the power in the butt section to turn over that fly. You know, even if it doesn't weigh a ton, like you said, sheds water weight on the back cast, builds in weight when it goes into the water. But that really does depend how far you're fishing and what your butt section is. I think can determine what your tippet length is, especially, and how beefy you decide to go on that tippet.
Yeah.
You can kind of make it work with a bunch of different rigs. We're saying as long as you have that tight line advantage, then you don't have the belly on the belly of a line or leader on the water to be influencing you. We're gonna get to some rapid fire questions in a second, but so the rig. One more point on the rig. Deli pointed out that he likes in the video. He pointed out that he likes throwing 1X and not too long either. He said because it gets, we said floppy, right? It gets kind of floppy if you have like 5 feet of 5X, and you're less accurate. Well, I think the same thing applies then if you're trying to do this on a micro mono rig. So if your whole rig is 6 pound or 4 pound or something like that, I think for me it gets a little sloppy. That's how it feels for me. Anyway, we talked about the concept. I'm sure we all get that now. We've talked about the rig, and I think we've talked about the flies pretty well. You guys agree? You want to hit a couple questions here before we get out of here? Questions, comments?
I was just gonna say, like,
Please,
I like to fish the mini dungeon a lot, and that I've found. I mean, I think that it can do the super pause pretty well.
Agreed.
And so there's other flies obviously that you can use for this, and I think the Grinch is kind of optimized for that technique. And I think all of us that have fished it really enjoy how maneuverable the Grinch is and how well it does these things. But I mean, you can definitely make it work with other streamers. So don't feel like you have to tie a Grinch to make this technique work.
No, that's a great point. I use a bunny bullet sculpin. That's on the website.
Yeah.
That you're right. That dungeon would work pretty well.
Yeah,
you just need something that doesn't fall too fast. You don't want a real fast drop rate, and you need again that water weight built in helps it cast. Then on a mono rig, you really can cast like 40 feet with the three even a 3.5. Wouldn't you say, Deli? Like you can go 40 feet out. You're starting to push it beyond.
Yeah,
that.
you're pushing it, but it'll get like if you're fishing a thicker butt section, let's say 15 pounds and up, and you're in that, and you've put a lot of fox fur on that, like. I sent a picture to Austin, and it's literally, it's like the size of the amount of fox I put on there is like my thumb.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. And that's not only carries the water weight then to help cast it out, but it slows it down.
Yeah.
That slows down that drop rate. This is cool. We just kind of hit an hour here. Let's rifle through some of these questions and comments. Thanks again, everybody. This is great. Let's almost think rapid fire. Like you guys know us. We could talk on each comment.
Each
here.
question.
Right. We give each question 15 minutes.
We just love to hear ourselves talk.
So we can all kind of highlight some of these, but this is right.
Bill speaks knowledge.
Don Ison says Bill speaks knowledge.
Yes, he does.
Dom and other Steelers fans, which hey, come on, Steelers fans. Any interest in Steelers trade? Oh wait, this has nothing to do with the super pause.
No, we don't.
We don't want Russell Wilson though. By the way, no thanks. Anyway, that's for
it's old news.
Drowsy Vulture. What kind of name is that? That's good. What else, guys? You got something to highlight?
There's a good one here.
Yeah,
I got one from
that
Andrew
one.
McDonald asking, curious about the wading approach to this slowest water. Is the slowest/longest pocket of water, or literally the slowest water in the river system? He's not the stealthiest wader. Very honest.
I would
Deli,
say
you got an idea? Yeah.
It's all of that. Like, I'm not saying go and only fish the slowest water in the river with this pattern. Right. I think it works a little better in slower water. The tactic that is, and even the Grinch that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
If you noticed in that video, the river was higher, like the river was up, and so I stayed closer to the bank. So I stayed out of the current, and so that I could throw it up. Dom's video, I think recently did about like the golden rule. Like I break that as far as distance, but having that rod tip in the same seam as your fly will always, you know, give you a little more control and help you slow that down.
Nice. All right, so I'm moving on from that because we're going rapid
The
fire,
slooper
right?
pause is pretty great.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Pause.
Hey, this is fair. Temco Fly Fishing asks, have you guys ever tried it with craft fur? I have not. You could, if you built enough craft fur, you could do something with it. But that craft fur doesn't have the wave.
Give it a lot.
The different hair, whether it's synthetic or natural, has different. I'm calling it wave, like a curl to it, right? It's more of a wave, and that builds up more material resistance on the way down. That's my quick answer to that. What else, guys?
That craft fur compresses a lot.
Yeah.
Especially even if
way
you
to put
put
it.
a lot of it on. The Arctic foxtail will stay bushy and kind of resistant and doesn't want to compress so much. It will some, but it really holds the bulk even when it's soaking wet. Craft fur tends to just kind of snake out on you.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to tie with, I think, too. Like that fox head I put on in like 20 seconds, if that. Like I hold it on there,
Really?
cinch it down, and I'm done. Yeah.
Oh, you're better at it than I am.
Austin was showing me how he did it, and I'm like, no. I'm like, that's the hard way. Just grab a clump, put it on the hook, put it around, cinch it down.
That's what I was gonna say, Deli. You're not combing out any of that under fur, are you?
No,
You're just-
I want that
you're
under
putting it
fur. I
all
want
on.
it to be.
Yeah.
I want it to sink slow.
Yeah.
We want to thank guys
I
like
put
Jeff Hall
floating
here.
on mine, but I didn't
Yeah.
share
What's
that
that?
till just now.
Yeah, this is a great start to a new format. I'll tell you, I mean, we have commitment from a couple of names that, well, Tom Rosenbauer said he'd be part of our Troutbitten Live format. And so this is kind of a start. I don't make too many promises about stuff when I start something new. Like when we started the podcast, the original podcast, I said, we'll try it for a season. We'll go from, it was about end of September till Christmas. I said, let's do it till Christmas. You know me, I'm not going to just do things once. So we'll do this again. We'll see where it goes. This is a great response. We appreciate it. Tyler Soul. Tyler.
Voices, that's the
we
comment of the
appreciate
night.
you being here. Yeah.
I'm awfully nervous going back to watch this.
Yeah, I know.
This can't be good.
It's a little spooky. That was Deli's word when Austin first logged on. He's like, "What's
Great.
with Austin? Sounds
Of course,
spooky."
it never happened before till right now.
No, it didn't.
No.
There's no explaining it.
It's just the way these things go.
Yeah. What else? Anything else, guys?
Let me see.
Max has a good question.
Can you highlight it?
Is this
There
one
it
here,
is.
Bill? Optimal depth.
No, the most like the second and most recent calm out. When doing a long pause, are you considering the difference in weight, buoyancy between multiple hooks and an articulated streamer?
That's nice.
The
Good question.
most of the weight is in the bead. The hook, the B10S hooks are really thin and don't really weigh a whole lot, and so they're not going to add a whole lot of weight to that. They do add some. I guess it's just over time. I could tell you to tie it a certain way, but everyone has to experiment on their own river system and see, okay, maybe, the 3.5 millimeter bead works for me with a very big clump of Arctic fox on it versus, maybe your river system, you need a 4 millimeter bead because you don't have that slower water.
Right
Or
on.
maybe you have even slower water and maybe you need a 3 millimeter bead.
Yep.
And so it's just, some of it is just experimenting with it.
Hyperduck 153 says, "Is there a tying tutorial video for the Grinch?" No, not yet. But there probably will be. How often do you guys? I have a hard time saying y'all, so I said you guys. Plan to do these podcasts in the future.
Yins.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, pretty often. We'll see. Again, this is a great test. We thank you very much. Here, knuckle dragger fly tying. See?
There we
It's
go.
honestly entertaining for us. You guys
It-
are all. I
it
feel
is.
like we have funny, clever
Yeah.
listeners.
I
I'm
know.
just like,
Yes.
It's a great
Keep
community. We
laughing.
thank you
yeah.
very much for being part of this. Anything else, guys? Anything else?
There was just a good
Bill,
one.
there was a good one here from Tyler about asking if we ever done this out of a boat.
Yeah,
I don't
from
think
the,
we touched on that today.
Yeah, I love it from a boat. That's if
Gives
you
a
have
little
somebody.
advantage being up higher, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It lets you, it lets you hold that more line off the water, longer distance, as long as you got somebody that's decent on the sticks and can hold the boat back.
Oh,
if
eat
you've
good
got
on the
somebody
sticks, baby.
if you got somebody rowing you in donuts, there's no hope for you.
Rowing in
But, yeah.
donuts like Sloop. That's what Sloop does.
Yeah.
Never put Sloop on
Yeah.
the sticks.
No, Slip will get you in a tree or do 360s.
All right, hey Trevor, do you have the readout, buddy?
Yeah, I've got it here.
Oh, look at that.
Ooh,
We're familiar with
Look at that. That's classy. Hey, remember, the Troutbitten Project is a free resource for all anglers. The Troutbitten website hosts over 1,000 articles with endless
now.
stories, comments, tactics, tips, and more. Find what you like through the top menu and through the search page. Navigate by way of the categories and tags, too. The Troutbitten YouTube channel now features the Troutbitten Tip series, the Fish and
Does.
Film series, the Troutbitten Fly Box,
Yes.
and hey, the Troutbitten Live series. Thank you for joining and being part of the Troutbitten community. Please like this show and subscribe to the channel because it really does help. Until next time, friends, fish hard, enjoy the day, and find your life on the water.
Right on. Thanks,
got it.
everybody. Thanks to everybody
Thanks for
joining.
being here. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, thank
We
you,
did-
everybody.
Obviously, we did not get to all your questions and comments. It's we appreciate it. It's real good stuff. You can check this out on a replay, pass it around. We'll be back, right? We'll do good stuff.
We'll be back.
There we go. Right? That's where it starts coming up. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you again next time.
See you next time, guys.